Hey Book2, coming here with a reading update as well as a July sort of possibilities TBR that I'm going to share with you all today. But as for what I've read recently, I read And Quiet Flows the Dawn. It's by Mikhail Shokolov. A Russian novel about the Don Cossacks. You can see there on the trusty steed, Don being a river kind of south of Moscow. And I didn't know anything about Cossacks or sort of this time period. This is early 20th century, World War One into Russian Revolution. And then sort of the little quote on here is Maxim Gorky talking about comparing it to War and Peace. But overall, I think this was a good novel. Definitely not War and Peace in my eyes. And maybe some of that's due to my lack of understanding of just World War One and the Russian Revolution and Cossack culture in general. They definitely seem, from reading the little bit of Wikipedia as a sort of background, and then obviously this novel, which read as historical fiction for sure, definitely seemed like Shokolov was giving a lot of realistic situations. Not sure about all the names necessarily, but I think a lot of the situations and mentioning the trenches and the battles and the way the regiments were being called and things like that seemed to me like what would be realistic, historical fiction-esque. But yeah, I think in general it was still a good read, and it's interesting because it's here early 20th century, whereas a lot of the other Russian works I've read have been more later 19th century. So this is kind of a new, I guess, era of Russian literature that I started reading. I had mentioned in the past I have a Gorky book that I'll read too, so I imagine he's around this same time frame. But yeah, I thought this one was good, but like I said, not my favorite Russian novel, but that's okay as well. And then after reading And Quiet Flows the Dawn, I think I might have mentioned it in a previous video what I'd started next, and that's here, The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. And I picked this up actually because I had some friends come over. We were watching, I think it was the NBA Finals, back when it was happening a week or two ago. And of course they see this on the shelf. had the dust jacket on with big swastika on it, and so they see that and instantly start questioning what kind of books I'm reading, and you have to give them that awkward answer of, oh well, I actually haven't read that. So then it's even weirder because you can't defend what the author's writing about. And so after they left, I really started thinking, okay, I want to read this, and so I picked it up, and it's so good. I'm about halfway through. I just started part 4. There's 6 parts, so World War II has officially started. Now, started is a very interesting term because, as the title implies, this, is following Nazi Germany, basically a little bit of Hitler, growing up and kind of developing a lot of his political beliefs, beliefs in general. But really, 1930s Germany is the first half of this book, the first 3 parts. And really, in essence, there's so many moments, and Shire mentioned it himself, that the smallest amount of interaction or impact given by any of the surrounding countries nearly would have guaranteed a stoppage to World War II, certainly to the extent that it ended up becoming. And I think, like I said, I don't really know too much about World War II, certainly Nazi Germany, and so while this is, an introduction and what seems like a very detailed one, it's been just such a fascinating read, not too academic or scholarly or above, anything that I can understand. Certainly there's a lot of, names and things that are new to me, outside of the major players, but really been enjoying, like I said, his writing style. Shire being in Germany or Austria, all these things during a lot of these moments was really, I think, something that helps me take in his writing, whether or not it, another historian couldn't have told the same story. Hearing him sort of share those tidbits of his reaction, seeing Hitler, come out of a meeting really frustrated, or the comments of the people or their reactions when they are feeling that war's coming, and yeah, just been really really impressed with it in general. Like I said, now halfway, and I even it definitely is a book I want to write a review on once I finish it. I mean, there's certainly a lot to pick from, but I mean, just some of the things that have really stood out is, like I mentioned, Shire being able to interact with people and them, the German population being so blind and almost brainwashed just due to the propaganda and control of the government over all the media. And that's sort of what you always hear, in these type of authoritarian states where they control not just obviously the military and the government, but any of that media as well. Um, as well as Shire, like I have here, I'm looking at when Hitler wrote sort of his autobiography while he was in prison before he took over Germany. He wrote Mein Kampf, like a sort of autobiography on his beliefs and everything. And very Shire calls it out. He very strongly outlines exactly what he was wishing to do, and Shire, says, why was the world so surprised when a few years later he set out to achieve these very ends? Just it's not like he lied in any of his writing. He called it out. Now certainly there's moments in here also where because I'm new to it, I'm questioning, Chamberlain's passive behavior towards a lot of Hitler's actions. Certainly, the Munich Agreement is something I didn't know about, and you're just, hindsight. Obviously, you know where the war is going to go, but just kind of shocked at some of these, and I know that that's where reading more about World War II. Obviously, I'm getting into what will be the war now, which obviously I think will center on the Nazi element of it, so it's not going to be too heavy in battles, and that's where sort of my July TBR comes into play, because I think I really want to read more more on World War II, and I actually found I have two options here, both Antony Beevor books, so on D-Day and Stalingrad. These were both in the clearance section for like $2, so I picked them up. They're like matching kind of orange penguin spines, but I've heard that Antony Beevor is just a really good World War II writer. And I figure instead of trying to do a giant World War II overview, of everything, I know this Rise and Fall of the Third Reich might kind of be like that, but I think next I want to go into more of a keyhole, is what I've seen online as people recommending to get into history or a specific section. So I don't know which of these I'm going to pick. Whether it's D-Day or Stalingrad, but really curious to see, maybe both. I'll read both, because the other option I have as well is here. I picked this up a long time ago. This was also on a clearance shelf, At Dawn We Slept by Gordon Prongo. This is about Pearl Harbor, so I mean, I guess if I go chronologically, this would be first among these three World War II options, so maybe I'll go with this. I actually read the sort of introduction or preface by the I guess it's two, where is it? Oh, I guess it's not on the cover. There were two sort of authors that helped put together this specific edition after Pronga, I think, passed away. And just reading about sort of Pronga's approach, meticulous nature to interview Japanese and American soldiers, it really seems like this one will maybe be similar to the sense in Shire, where I connect a lot with the writing style. So, like I said, not sure which of these World War II keyholes I'll go into, but definitely think that will be my next step to see, okay, which phase do I want to learn about? Am I curious about the Western Front, the Eastern Front? okay, is Pearl Harbor interesting? Do I want to get into the more nautical side, maybe aviation, something like that to really sort of dive into before I go for a general approach. But I do definitely at some point want to read a overall history, obviously, but I think I want to get a better sense for some of the, I'll say key moments. I know there's a lot more than these three key moments, but these are just the three that I picked up fairly recently, and we'll get to probably at least I think two of these here in July, and I'll definitely keep you guys updated on those and how I'm liking them. Then the next thing that I actually cheated and started early on is Emma by Jane Austen. So Jane Austen July is a reading event where you pick a Jane Austen novel and read it. And I think this might be my first Jane Austen novel. I can't remember if I actually had to read Pride and Prejudice in school or if we watched the movie and read Jane Eyre instead. I can't remember, so I'll just say this is my first Jane Austen novel. Like I said, maybe a quarter or a fifth of the way through it, and I'm actually really liking it so far. I think Emma's dad, Mr. Woodhouse, or what's his name? Not Woodhouse. Yeah, it is Woodhouse. Okay. He's complaining about a guy bringing walnuts. That's the funniest thing, I think. Just cranky old guy that doesn't like anything, or going, oh no, you should have gone further for the doctor, things like that, or for the medical treatment. It's just, I think he's one of my favorite characters so far, even though he's definitely not one of the main players. And it's also kind of interesting coming off of the Steve Donahue read aloud of Mr. Scarborough's Family, which I imagine would be a similar time frame in England. Kind of comparing the way these people communicate, the way they approach dinners and meeting and just general conversation with people is I think, I guess, this era of British literature is definitely something I'm enjoying. So like I said, I cheated and started early, and I'm really enjoying it, but I'll keep you all updated on once I finish Emma. And then the last one I have here, and I was actually just watching a video where Joshua Kribo was talking about this, and that's this Science Fiction Hall of Fame. So he mentioned this maybe a week or so ago, that he's doing a read-along with Steve Donahue. They're going through this Hall of Fame, which is put together by Robert Silverberg. And it has all these different authors that wrote sort of short stories. And it just sounded like such a fun idea. And I went online, and this copy was basically the same price as anything else I saw. So I picked it up, and yeah, I'm excited to read it. I think the plan is Joshua and Steve are going to read one of these a day, even though there's not quite 30. So that'll be my plan too. Read one of these a day as I'm trying to get through Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, which I have about, I think, 10 chapters left. So maybe I'll do it where I read a chapter of that, a chapter of this, and then maybe go on to Emma after that. Not really sure the plan, but excited to read this because I don't really have much science fiction behind me. So I'm excited to see if one of these authors really stands out to me, and then I want to dive more into their works, whether that's if they have longer works, a full short story collection from them, or what that may be. But what's cool about this, I should say, this is for Rocket Summer as well. Rocket Summer, where you read vintage science fiction. So it's from the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. I think is roughly the time frame for Rocket Summer, and that's all what these books are short stories. They start in 34 and go through 63. So excited to kind of read that. Maybe a decade will have different impact on the style of writing, certainly as technology continued to evolve. So yeah, very excited to read it. Like I said, I recognize Ray Bradbury on the cover here, but I think that's about it for authors that I'm even remotely familiar with. So excited to read this. Yeah, like I said, it's being hosted by Joshua, and he just posted a video talking about it as well. So excited to kind of give you guys my updates and see which science fiction was my favorite. But that's all I have, at least for ones that I'm looking forward to read. I'll probably mix in maybe something else near the end of the month, depending on how everything goes. But excited to keep up, and really looking forward to finishing this Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. Like I said, Shire's writing has just been really immersive and really approachable, which, when you first pick up a big nonfiction work, at least for me, that's something that I'm not fully comfortable with yet. And so I think instantly I kind of felt comfortable with his approach to a very dark subject. But yeah, very excited, and hope you all are having some good reading. Curious if any of you are participating in any of these um, summer reading months. I guess I didn't mention summer of sport. I should definitely get to one of those. But hope you're all having some good weather. Sorry if you heard the rain in the background. It's been actually a pretty good day here in Georgia. Not too overbearingly hot thanks to the cloud cover. But hope you have a great night. Bye.